Hey, what's up guys? We're going to be working on the Cobalt today, and by the title of the video you will know that we are going to build a cold air intake. On the Cobalt, the turbo is right there, and so what I did is I put a 90-degree elbow, which is right here, clamp to the turbo, and that's the elbow that I got from CX Racing when we got the intercooler kit that we put on in the last Cobalt video. So I have all this leftover tubing here. So this is all leftover stuff from the S10, and I am going to build a cold air intake for it. I also have a K&N filter that I got from the junkyard right here. And oh yeah, see, I totally forgot. I got a nice piece of straight pipe. I got this part of a 90. So we're going to build ourselves a cold air intake. Now the only issue with building the cold air intake is there's actually this hose goes into the cold air intake, and I guess it's just a vent from the valve cover. But I had to get Clayton to make this for me. If you were planning on trying to do this yourself, you'd probably have to fashion up something like this. And like usual, I probably could have somehow made this on my own, but when you got a friend with that works at a machine shop, well, you take advantage if you can. Now the other issue is there's also the MAF sensor, which is somewhere right here. So this sensor also goes into the pipe. Well, on the stock car it goes into the air box, which is mounted right here. So it's somewhere like this, and then this is where it plugs in. What we're gonna do is we're gonna have to make kind of like a little standoff that's gonna come off of the pipe and get welded on. And Clayton already made it at work for me, which once again is another thing that might be a little tricky to make at home, but you could do it, you know, with a little block of aluminum and some drill bits and some time. So we're gonna start mocking some stuff up here and try to figure this out. Now the first thing I wanna do here is I wanna remove this, which is the stock airbox mount, because it'll give a little more clearance right here. I could just snip it off, but I'm actually gonna take that whole mount right off because it's not really needed, so we're gonna do that now. I'm gonna use this tool, which I like, to grind out the spot welds. A little persuasion, this bracket should just come off now. Okay, maybe go a little bit more. I think if I use the chisel from behind, it would probably crack off, but I'm trying not to damage this, like the strut tower underneath. No, I thought this was going to be super easy and it would just pop off. And it's fighting me, of course. Alright guys, so after screwing around with it a little more, I ended up getting it off. I guess this is pretty thick, this metal. So I got it off and I just sanded it down a little bit, put a little bit of self-etching primer on it for now. And then I have some red paint, can touch it up. And you should never know that that was ever there. Alright, so on to test fitting this stuff. I took this, it was a U-bend and I cut it. I maybe should have cut it a little longer, might have been better, but what my plan is to fit it in there decently and kind of get it like that. This stupid air conditioning thing is kind of in the way. I could probably bend it a little bit and I might have to tweak it over. And then originally I thought I could go with a 90 and then just this 45, but as you can see the angle is definitely no good there, so I'm gonna have to add a piece. So then what I think I'll do is cut the this off of both of these and then fit them together, and that should be a straight shot pretty much down, and then there's a hole. There's a hole right there that it should go through and then come out down here where the filter will be. So I think what I'm gonna have to do now is cut off the beads of both of these so that I can line them up together, and then hopefully figure that out, and I can weld those two together. And then I have this 45, and then I also have a straight, and I also have this piece too. So I mean, I could use this somewhere. Also, I also want to try not to have too many welds, so I'll have to weld it here and then one more down there. So, you know, try to minimize how many welds there are. I'm not doing 500 pie cuts. So I cut the ends off so that I could fit this together. And I don't know, I don't really like, it looks okay, but then if I push it down nice, then it doesn't really line up good. It should almost be slightly longer, but then it would hit here. If that makes any sense. And if I raise it up a bunch high, kind of like that, then I think it would go. But also my issue is I'm working with what I got, right? Like I don't have a lot of bends. But I looked at some online, and kind of what I could see is I think they go 90 like that, and then they go to this, like a 45 down. So I think if I cut this shorter, kind of like this, I'm using one of these clamps to line up my cuts. If I cut it shorter, somewhat like that, I think it might go, and then I can just add this to the bottom, either this way or this way, to go to the filter, which is on the ground now. Yeah, so I think I'm going to line that up and cut it, and then we'll see how that fits. All right, guys, so I made it shorter, and actually this is going to work out really good, because this I can keep it nice and low, except I'm still too long, which is good. I made it longer. I've already marked it. I'm going to shorten it up a bit. It's past the hole, and I want it to be kind of centered in that hole. And then hopefully we'll be able to just put this piece on the bottom and then right there to the filter. So that's what I'm hoping. So I'm gonna cut this down and then double check fit it, and then try to fit the bottom piece. All right, I ended up having to cut it like 2 times before I got it to where I wanted it. Okay, so now you see, starts there. This is just obviously temporary. I'm gonna weld that. Goes down 45. Goes down through the hole, and then if you can see there, of course I still have to cut off the flange or whatever, but that joins up to that other pipe, which comes out here and then goes into the filter. And pretty much, I mean, that's not exactly, I can tuck the filter in a little bit, but obviously when the bumper's on and then there's an undercover, this will be inside that undercover. So it's not going to really be out in the elements. It'll actually be hidden, and it'll get colder air versus the underhood air. So that's pretty good. A little bit more fine tuning on that bottom one. This one I think is perfect. I'll actually end up sanding them nice and smooth before I weld them together. And then, yeah, so all I got to do now is cut that flange off there. Join those two up together good, and then I'll end up having to drill a hole to put this in. So this will get recessed in there and welded, and then probably somewhere right around here is where I'll put this, because that's kind of about where it would have went from the factory. So yeah, that's what we'll end up doing with that. And so I'll pull it apart now, and I'll cut that little flange off and then fit everything back together and make sure it's right before welding. All right, so I've test fitted it all back together. Still got that clamp on there. There I just have it taped. And then here you can see where the filter sits. Perfect, exactly where I wanted it. So I think that looks pretty good. Along with the intercooler piping, it looks pretty fancy. I welded the pipes together. I don't know, turned out kind of shitty. I'm not really the greatest aluminum welder. I don't know, it's this tubing too, I think it's that cheap aluminum. I don't know, I always have a real problem getting started, and then all of a sudden once I get it started, it welds pretty good, and I don't know, whatever, it's welded. And then here you can see, here's the piece coming down, which I have to cut this off, and then it's also welded down here. That was the second weld I did. Of course, it turned out better. I should have welded that one first and then welded the top one, but whatever. It's welded. It'll stay together. I'm gonna let it cool, I guess, for a bit. Then I'm gonna figure out where I want to put this thing here, and I'm gonna drill a hole so that I can fit this in here and weld it. And then Clayton made this thing, which, see if I can find it. He made this at work, which is super duper fancy, and it is, let me get it. Okay, so this is the stock air box, and this is the little mount, which is, as you can see, the same as this. Now, most of the aftermarket cold air intakes, they just have like a aluminum block with a hole cut in it like this, which, I mean, I could have probably made something like that myself too, but once again, when you got a guy who works at a machine shop, you take advantage. So I'm gonna put it probably there, something like that, because the old air box kind of sat there, and it's kind of where it was, and as you can see, the wire goes directly there. So I'm gonna end up marking it kind of there, and then I'm gonna have to weld it on. The only thing is, this might be a little tricky to weld because of how it's cut around these circles, and as I just stated, being not the best aluminum welder, I don't know how it's gonna turn out, but hopefully it turns out decent. Hopefully, because I'm welding this thicker piece on here, not butt welding it. I think that's a lot of the issue. I think welding these aluminum tubes is you're butting them up together, and it's so easy to melt one side or the other because you're basically not really filling a gap, but it's still two pieces butt welded together. So yeah, I'm gonna mark that, drill it, and then I'll have to mark this, and then obviously I'm gonna have to cut like a hole in that tube to match that for the math. And so I'm gonna do that now. I drilled the hole, so this fits in here now. It's a little tight, but that's good because we want to be able to weld it. What I also did is, I can't get it out. On the original tube that had this on it, it has a hole kind of pointing this way. I don't know if you can really see that, but it has a hole pointing this way. But obviously when Clayton drilled the hole, he put the hole on the end. And I think that, I don't know what the deal is, but what I did is I drilled a hole, and then before I put this in, I'm going to weld the top up here so that it's like this one is. Like I said, I don't know. It's probably hard to see. Maybe you can see it like that, but basically it just points back. I don't know what the purpose is, but we're going to do that. And then we got this hole here. So I'm hoping that this Dremel tool will and that works pretty good. I figured I'd use the little tiny piece to make the ends. These little cutoff wheels, I mean, they work good on stuff like plastic or aluminum like this, but I should be able to make a pretty perfect little square, rectangle I should say, not square. But and then, like I said, then the fun begins of me having to weld it, which could be a disaster, so we'll see. Oh, just like that. These things are so flimsy. Like, I was barely even squeezing it. I don't think I was really squeezing it at all. Crap. Okay. Try that again. Whoa! I was hoping I'd be able to do it all with just the one more disc. I think I only have one more left. Look at that. But is that enough for the thing to fit? Let's give her a try. No. Still got to be bigger than that, I guess. Oh. Quite a bit bigger, actually. Well, that sucks. Well, I'll have to probably file it down a little bit. Got it opened up a little bit more. So now it fits right in there. And as you can see, it's ready to go. Ready to get welded in. I'm gonna weld it in. I probably won't film it because I just get aggravated if things don't go well. So, and I'll come back when it's welded up. All right, guys. So I got this welded on. Turned out all right. And now I got this fitted, as you can see, and I got it clamped. So I'm gonna weld it now. Hopefully it welds okay. I guess we'll see. This kind of welded crappy. I don't know. I didn't clean it good enough first. Like it seemed dirty, but I'm gonna try to weld this and hopefully it turns out good. All right, guys. So I got it installed on the car, and there it is. So welding this part, it went okay, except because of how it was cut rounded, it was kind of hard to get into the like really tight spots. So it kind of sucked. And obviously, like I said, I'm not that good at welding aluminum to really do a really awesome job, but I did the best I could so that it'd be sealed up. So here's this attached, and here's this attached, and then come down here. Here's the filter. It's all nice and tight, good. I thought about adding a little clamp or something to hold it, but it feels really good just like this. I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. That's it. That's how you build a almost free air intake. You go to the junkyard, you get a filter, you get some old charge tubes you had laying around, you get a friend with a CNC machine, which most people don't have, but that's how you make it. So I'm pretty happy with that. That turned out great. The next thing we're going to be doing on the car, I'll show you some of the stuff, is we're going to be building a 3-inch catback. So there's a bunch of mandrel bends. There's the muffler. It's a Dynamax, chrome tip for it. There's some 4-inch straight pipe. We're going to run, put a V-band clamp kind of just where it goes over the axle. So that's going to be in the next video. Last night we also put new brake rotors and pads on, front and rear. So those turned out really good. They look really nice. We're getting really close to this car being done. Pretty much we have to bleed the brakes and the clutch, which I got all the bleeder screws loose last night. We have to bleed the brakes and the clutch. We got to put the wheel well liners in. The front nose has to go back on, and the exhaust, and then that's pretty much it. And then just get it running, and obviously it needs to go for a safety still. And I think other than that, I still have to finish the little bit of bodywork sanding. There's a rust spot here that I want to fix. So there's still that, but we're getting pretty close to the end of this project, and it should be on the street soon, we're hoping anyways. So anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this video. So like always, like, comment, subscribe, share with your friends, and we'll check you later.
Listen, I've got to give a clue here now. I don't want any more bullshit anytime during the day from anyone. That includes me. It's going to be very hot. It's going to be very uncomfortable for everybody. Want anybody yelling? We get anybody yelling around here anymore today, and then the shit is going to hit the fan. And they fit the diverse needs of a very big firm, and they fit the needs of a very diverse buyer segment. Why can't I remember? I wrote this stuff. Why can't I remember it? Why don't I say it fucking right?